Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is my wonderful co-host, Danny, and we have a fun show for you today. We're going to start off talking about passenger consciousness in human design.
I can't wait. This is one of the topics I really love to get into, this whole breadth and growth of what is this passenger consciousness? Who is this guy?
Yeah,
What is it?
I'm pretty excited because it's something, again, you hear about all these kind of things in human design, but I wanted us to go through it in our own little magical, whimsical flair.
Absolutely, Moni. And I forgot all the slides you put together, but as it relates to just passenger consciousness in general, what's a good question for people to keep in mind? My favorite question is, who's noticing? That's just my favorite way to look at it. But then you know how I get one track, right? A little bit. So help me flesh that out into more little pretty words about keynotes.
Well,
Who's
it's like
noticing,
if you're noticing that you're thinking about something, or if you're noticing the energetics, then like, what is that you that is noticing?
Right.
That
What the
there's
heck
there's
is
a
it?
there's an observer of some kind. So who is that observer?
Yeah, especially how about when you do something? Why did I do that? Just those, why did I say that? So it's to recognize there's a separation going on. There's these crystals of consciousness, which we're about to get into, and there's a passenger that we need to make aware that there's a design that it is married to throughout this life. The cosmic love affair is what we're here to reveal for the passenger. It's there. They just don't know it.
I'm excited. Well,
Me
thank
too.
you. Thank you to everyone who is watching, and thank you for liking and subscribing and hanging out and asking questions. We really love having you, and let's dive into it. So we're going to start off talking about neutrinos. So neutrinos, it means little neutral one. And these are tiny cosmic messengers with the mass of 1/1,000,000th the weight of one proton. And yeah, I know, right? I was like, that is super, super tiny. And so mass means that they can carry information. So these neutrinos are small enough to pass through any atomic barrier without resistance. And they can be called or referred to as the breath of stars and the exhaled energy of stellar fusion. You can
Yep.
also, you can also think of this as chi or prana. And there are more neutrinos in the universe than anything else. And there are 3 trillion neutrinos, and they're carried information that pass through every square inch of our planet and us every second. And the sun provides 70% of the neutrinos that are out there. And then the remaining 30% comes from the stars in the Milky Way, as well as the planet Jupiter.
And they're pouring in on us all the time. And by the way, I forget if it is 3 trillion or 3 billion, but so many. This information is the important part. It's they can carry information. The fact is they do carry information. So information, look at information like I stepped on the wood and got a splinter. The wood gave its splinter to you because that was the information of the wood. I know that's rather abstract, but that's what information is, just the fact that it exists. It has inherent information. If I show up and start talking to you, I've got information. These things are basically coded with an energy that our bodies interpret as something. Is what the point is. That's the information they're carrying. Their existence is the information. Essentially, that's the majority of their information. And as it differentiates itself, pouring through planets, for instance, that's where our genome picks it up. And it's like, oh, you're made different this way. And it's filtered through these consciousness crystals, which we're going to get into in a moment, small enough to pass through any atomic barrier. And that is essentially correct, except for one. It is not small enough to pass directly through the proton or the neutron. That's why we're able to collect them sooner or later, and that's why we're able to see. That's why the planets are able to color the neutrino feed that pours in on us, because Mars is made up of a certain thing. So when the neutrino ocean or river really is pouring through Mars and on its way to us to mint us like a coin, Mars is stopping it a certain way because some of its protons and neutrons the neutrino will hit it so square dead on that it stops there. It's dead ended. So some neutrinos stop inside the planet. Not many. Mostly it just pours right through. So that's what this atomic barrier thing is talking about. This stellar chi and this prana, it is because the fusion only happens inside the star, that so far part of its exhaling and part of what is happening from it is this stuff that acts like a wavicle. It is so incredibly light that it's almost impossible to measure, but it does have mass, so it can't travel at the speed of light. That's why it's like a breath. If it were just light, it wouldn't be the breath. But because it's slightly slower than the speed of light, it acts as a prana, this chi that we have. And the whole thing is intense. More neutrinos than anything else so far that we know of. Absolutely. And 3 trillion every square inch, 70%. Yep.
Yeah, I pulled all of this
You know,
from the Definitive Human Design book. So it is 3 trillion neutrinos.
is it trillion? Okay.
It's 3
Yep.
trillion, yeah, according to the Definitive Book of Human Design.
Copy
And
that.
it's cool because you said that it goes a little slower than the speed of light. So according to the book, it says it's 1 to 2% slower than the speed of light, which is why they can't be pure energy.
They can't be pure energy, or they would be the speed of light.
Yeah. And so it's like these like subatomic data particles, right? It's like these bits of data, you know, it's like there's radio waves going through us, there's Wi-Fi waves going through us. Like how many picture messages and videos are just going through us right now by the technology that we've created. So it's neat, like, oh, of course, there's this subatomic particle that's like sending all these tiny little messages around.
Quite literally, it's not that big of a stretch to get there, in other words, from our logical scientific selves. So you can see that and we can share that. Yeah.
Cool. Mosey?
Mosey.
So here we have the magnetic monopole. So the magnetic monopole is a single magnetic attraction. It only attracts, and it's located in the identity/G center. So everybody has one of these in your little identity center. That's a one-way magnet that's pulling everything towards you. And so all life forms are endowed with a magnetic monopole. And the magnetic monopole holds everything together in the illusion of our separateness. And it holds the personality and design crystals together in a relationship. The magnetic monopole connects us to our movement in time through space, guiding us along our path and geometry in life. You can think of it as destiny or the driver.
It's such a big concept put in such a sort of simple set of terms to understand it up front, right?
Yeah.
That driver, what we keep calling destiny, if whenever you look back over your life, you always see, oh, look at the circumstances that led me to this. As soon as you can do that and reflect upon your past to say, oh God, yeah, this happened with this, brought me on a trajectory through my life, we can go back then at the same time and look at your design and see where your monopole, what type of direction it was hooked onto to align it with a set of geometry that then helped you receive what felt like destiny. You know, a lot of times, or fate, or coincidence, or whatever, just the mystery of the life. That is what we're always trying to get into. But this driver, it sits in the G center. The G center marks out the 8 different sections, 4 quarters and 8 half quarters, obviously, and it marks them out quite deliberately in the wheel, the mandala, the human design mandala. So it's a really important center. It contains the vessel, which empowers our direction, and then gate 2, the driver, acts like the thing that will now push that empowerment right into the now, through the past, or into the future. These are our directions, and they're really important. We need them. Gate 2 is this always attractor, and the thing is, the monopole is something that science has been looking for a long time. If we had a couple of serious astrophysicists watching by accident, because maybe their wives made them do it, and they start hearing us talk about the monopole, they're going to say, hey, we have some equations we have not finished. We haven't nailed down this monopole, but we think it's there. There's something there because the monopole describes the rest of how we fill in for all of what we can't measure. We measure 5 or 10%, 5% of the known universe we can measure in visible mass. We get another 10 or 20%, I forget these numbers, might be 30%, in what we see as might be dark energy or dark matter. One of the two, I forget. And then the other of the two, we just can't tell. because it's dark. The monopole fills in the rest of the equation as a constant. And the thing is, the magnetic monopole, what's so intense about it, is it's responsible not only for our trajectory, but the fact that there's a monopole in every sternum of every human, and there's a monopole linked up with every design crystal, and there's monopoles literally everywhere in the universe. They might be as numerous as the neutrino. We don't know. And it's responsible for our relative sense of gravity. It's responsible for our relative sense of time. It's responsible for what we relatively think of as our spatial existence in 3D, and then when we imagine 4 and 5D. And nobody knows that because we're swimming around with them. It's like just like the fish doesn't notice the water, or we don't notice the air until we're in the water. I don't know what else to say about this thing. It is magic, this monopole. One last thing, the monopole links up with the design crystal. It comes into the body at conception. Somewhere around 6 months, that monopole starts to either at 6 months or it starts moseying at 6 months to take its place in the G center strictly, to stay in the G center strictly while the design crystal starts to migrate up to the ajna. And then at the time of birth, when we receive our consciousness crystal, that stuff we call the black lines, it cooperates with the monopole. Because the monopole's holding in both those two things together. They normally would have nothing to do with each other, like two ships passing in the night. And then the consciousness crystal sits on top. It doesn't even enter the body. And it's held in alignment with the design crystal. And these things filter the neutrino feed so that we receive it one at a time. Our bodies are reading one neutrino at a time. So back to the information you were talking about, the fact that they exist is part of their information. And what is it they carry for information? I cannot know. It's a Gate 61 mystery that I choose not to go insane trying to know. You're all going to have to listen to that again. Please rewind and play over. Unless you got it.
Yeah, no.
I wish Tressa were here. She would add a thing too, because we just had this conversation. She had a couple of really great nuggets to add to it, and I can't remember what they were.
Well, I'm glad we have you to explain all of this because all the stuff you said was really cool.
Thank you, Mona. Anything you want to add to that? Like just the Gate 2 and our trajectory, that hooking us on to our geometry. It's even just that.
Yeah,
it's intense.
Yeah, the way it's like I think of the identity center in that sense of like trajectory. It's like a San Francisco streetcar, right? Where it's like got that like hook onto like this is where you're going. And I especially think of that with like the defined identity that like you have a specific route that your streetcar is going on, where somebody with an undefined identity, it's like you can jump from one bus to the other and you can see where other people are going.
It's a great point, Moni. And each of those two individuals have a monopole inside their Gate 2, whether their Gate 2 is defined or not. And it's sitting there that as an attractive force that is the meaning of love. It only attracts. So we have love built into us, quite literally, because all it does is it's a single pole, monopole. It does not have one that repels and one that attracts. It only attracts. So in case you ever wondered, are we supposed to get along? Yeah. It's written into the code.
Mosey?
Sure.
So now we're going to be talking about crystals of consciousness and the cosmology of human design. So basically, in the beginning, there was an original yin egg, this original cosmic egg that contained all the atomic material of the universe. And it was made of a crystalline structure. And so not a crystal per se, like it's not like a little rock or a little quartz crystal or something. It's more as a visualization so we can understand the concept of this crystal. And there's also an original yang seed, a cosmic seed that contained another crystal-like structure. And so at the Big Bang, these two came together and shattered in an infinite number of crystalline aspects spread throughout, and each bearing a consciousness of the original yin-yang orientation. And all forms on the planet, and even inanimate objects, are endowed with crystals of consciousness.
It's a lot. So, start with the yin. The scientists have described over and over again this Big Bang process. And they basically stayed with it. No one has come up with a better theory. Now, apparently the voice, when it took Ra and gave him this information, confirmed the Big Bang theory. And that's why this description is the way it is. So in the beginning, something banged. And what the scientists haven't quite figured out yet is that outside of time, outside of time, these things were. And once they came together, they released every last thing. The scientists have everything from basically Big Bang forward. That's what we know, because it's in our known universe. We can see the result of that. Right down to about, a 1/2 millionth of a second. They've got the Big Bang measured down to about 2 millionth of a second, and they can't quite come up with that last millionth of what was the deal. That's because they can't get backwards behind it to see where is zero time, because we live in time. It's weird.
What is before time? You can't really get to it.
Yeah, you can't quite get there, and we're not supposed to. We're just supposed to be able to imagine it. Just hear the concept and be the creative beings that we are. When we think, we make. So trust that. Anyways, here's the Big Bang. Boom. Everyone sort of knows Big Bang. We don't know how. Here's how. This was always waiting to happen. And by the way, it might be happening over and over again all over the place. I can't say. All I know is the universe has an intent to become aware and experience itself. It has to, because here we are. And these two crystals of consciousness are exactly what was described. So you're right, they're not crystalline structures as it relates to a quartz crystal, but you can look at them for the purposes of being able to describe its function like a crystal. These two crystals allow a stream of neutrino information, basically one at a time. They file it up in nice single file. It's still moving at near the speed of light because they're moving that fast. But we are only receiving one very narrow stream of neutrino. We'll get into a later episode. Your orientation on this planet determines the neutrino stream you get. Dogs are on 4 legs. They receive it differently than we do, than plants do, and everything else. But their sole job is to filter the neutrino stream, and whatever biological unit it is part of, in our case, men and women, mankind, its job is to determine what it does with that structure. If it's in a rock, it doesn't do much with it. If it's in us, it encodes our genome. They're encoding everything. They're filtering consciousness for the entire universe. These crystals of consciousness, aspects of the original Big Bang, broke out into untold numbers and scattered. And we here in our beautiful little solar system with planet Earth in the nice little Goldilocks zone just happen to be home base for essentially the universe's ajna. We're here part of the totality. Advancing consciousness is what we're supposed to be doing. And these crystals of consciousness are filtering it because we're the dominant species on the planet that has 2 crystals to act juxtaposed to each other. Later, when we get into Y9 centered, they now are separate as we get born. One crystal down here, one crystal here, our third eye, one crystal right above our head, not quite in the body. That's the personality. They're both filtering consciousness differently. Each one is different. There's no 2 are the same, and they're filtering it differently. And therefore, we have 2 things in us. We have 2 living things in us, and the body has the chemistry to alert us to what all of that is. This cosmology is insane because from the Big Bang, scored out into the universe and poured into the place where finally it would find a Goldilocks zone, untold numbers of these crystals of consciousness, all different, bundling together, eager to create consciousness, inform, and experience itself. The universe did a pretty good job. I think we'll give that to God too. I think God had a plan.
I mean, it seems to indicate as such.
Yep.
Like if you have a creation, you have a creator. If you have a program, you have a programmer. So it stands to reason. This isn't just a big accident.
We have a creator, all right. Yep.
Mosey. So here we're going to talk about the design crystal. And so the design crystal is an aspect of the original yin egg, and it sits in the ajna center between the eyebrows, so like third eye. And the design crystal manifests by The design crystal manifests the bioenergetics of the body and the physicality in form. So the design crystal, it's like the vehicle and form consciousness.
The form consciousness is really important because that is the thing that we haven't gotten used to. Our consciousness thinks, our personality consciousness thinks it's on its own and it's making all the decisions. But the form makes the decisions now in our 9-centered form, just like it did in our 5-centered form, by the way. Aspects of this original yin egg, as these crystals reach Earth, the crystals that are conscious in us are already here. And as they get parlayed back and forth and into form in us, they show up at the moment of spark, giving 51 and 25, that all spark, that sparks life from nothing into life. And it's at that moment that this design crystal starts filtering and working with the body and the magnetic monopole to sow up the seeds that become the egg, the embryo, finally the baby. So it is everything about our body. It informed the entire structure of inventing us inside our mother.
That's
Raises a lot, dude. That raises, we can't deal with them here, but that raises a lot of spiritual and philosophical questions. You know, it just, people could chime in with all kinds of stuff to say about that. But it becomes the vehicle, form consciousness. Keep a hat check on that, because we're going to come back to why form consciousness is in charge, but personality consciousness thinks it's in charge.
Yeah, and learning how to like distinguish those two.
The thing is, form consciousness isn't quite our outer authority, and it's our outer authority that we're identified with, that is the us we're always calling us. And that's the personality side. So I guess that's probably next, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about the personality side. Yeah, will be the next slide. But yeah, it's like the design. Go ahead.
The pretty picture you have. I forget, you always put a picture, Moni. So you got it right there in the center of the ajna. Yes. So I'm not going to keynote all these gates, but I invite you to keynote the gates. I mean, I'll keynote them a little bit. This consciousness filtering thing, once it finally lands in its home, it does all the work to make the body, and then it lands into the toy box. The thing that can speak. This is the thing that is supposed to do the speaking. It's evident by its location, because our ajna speaks our outer authority to the world. This picture just totally stunned me with a neat little fact. It is literally the voice that's supposed to come out. If you think about it, it's supposed to return to the things and figure out the formulas and have this realization that turns into awesome ideas and opinions, and suddenly there is breakthrough, and I speak.
It's interesting.
At you. Yeah, I speak at you is the thing. It's like I don't just speak to nothing. I have to speak at, to someone else and others.
Oh yeah, that's interesting to like bring it into that.
That was a great visual, Moni. You have an intuitive like gift for these things.
Thanks. I like putting different things together. So I just like found our little graphic of the ajna, and then I found these cute little crystals and played around. I love making the creative side.
Think about the keynote of, no, it's the form that speaks the truth. You know what I'm saying? When we look at it, this solidifies. It is the form that informs the truth. We just have to let personality get out of the way enough so we can speak it.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like the design crystal is relating to like the vehicle and form consciousness and inner authority. And then as we express that, it becomes like the outer authority for other people.
Correct. Our expressions are our authority facing outward, outer authority. And it becomes how we communicate, what we say, where we get our friends, all the stuff that is our communion with the other. It's here to express the need for communion and beauty. That's one of the things it's here to express: spirit, meaning, and beauty.
Awesome. Mosey?
Mm-hmm.
So now we have the personality crystal. The personality crystal is an aspect of the original yang seed, and it sits above the head center, above the scalp. And the personality crystal manifests identification of self and who you think you are. And the personality crystal, you can think of this as the passenger or passenger consciousness.
It's that passenger consciousness that we're trying to get people to understand who's noticing. So there's two levels to this, and it's real important to take people through it. It starts out with who you think you are. Really is the first part. So when we're conditioned and we're first coming into design, we have plenty of moments of knowing who we are, right, in our life. These are our epiphanies and great moments, and they feel so good. But the rest of the time, we're in a din, right? We're in a haze a little bit. Maybe I am this. Maybe we think we're something. Okay. And then we move on. Aspects of this original yang seed and notice it's not even in the body. This has nothing to do with the form itself. It's just a separate passenger consciousness, but it is who we think we are until we start to wake up to our nature. And then we shed the conditioning is I think I'm this. That's the conditioning. We're giving the conditioning a character name. We're calling it the not self. That is a thing because it's in us. I mean, we become it. The not self thinks it's something. As you start to decondition that not self away, suddenly you just go into, I think I'm this. You get rid of the I think I'm this, and you turn into just no, I'm this. And you bypass the whole thinking that the mind is in charge of thinking what it is. Soon we'll get you to notice who's noticing, because at the end of the day, the personality crystal, this passenger, again, passenger, it's not even in the body. Look, that's above the head center. That sits above the scalp. It comes in at the very end. It's not part of the body. It just works with the body as an energetic source. Closely, it works with it, don't get me wrong. But when the passenger starts to realize, I'm not alone. I'm Joe, and there's a Jerry. I'm Ben, and there's a Jerry. That's not my fault. There's a Jerry. There's a Susie. I have to call Susie. And I'm in love with Susie, and it is the yin. So we'll call I'm Dan, and there's a Susie or something, right? I have to get along with the consciousness that's there because it's just as intelligent as anything. If it only had this outer authority, it would use the lips to speak the words it wants, but it has to communicate with us. And we have to get in tune with it again so that when we speak for ourselves and our outer authority comes out as we've been in our experiment, we suddenly are speaking our true self. Our true self can't know anything. That's why we're stuck with, I think I'm this, because I don't know, until we get to know the other side, and the personality shakes hands with the design side and says, oh, I see you have all these gates, and we keynote you sort of this way, and we read things a little differently about you on this side. And I see I have all these black gates and lines and numbers and stuff, and I know I'm aware of that stuff. That stuff I'm used to, and read that off as who I think I am. But when I really see the other side, I'm not who I originally thought I was. And I ask people at that moment, who's noticing? Your passenger. It's waking up. It's like, oh my God, I'm noticing that I'm noticing this. And when it can truly self-reflect, the self-reflected consciousness is born. And now you are awake. You get to wake up as yourself. Got to get into your experiment to make it really be something that you can see. I wish it were easier. There ain't no pill.
If it was easier, it wouldn't be any fun.
So personality, consciousness, passenger. What does a good passenger do, Moni?
Sit down in the back seat and be quiet.
And look out the window.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, that's why I love the little like taxi graphic of like welcoming you in to like sit in the back and be the passenger. You don't have to be the backseat driver.
You know, the taxi one is a perfect one because it's very inviting. It's the design. That's the design monopole, and the crystal is what that taxi driver is with the car vehicle itself, the body, the meat suit. And he's inviting. He wants to invite you in. Absolutely. So he's trying to get you to notice. I'm here. Let's fall in love again, like when we were 4. We loved when we were 4. We really did. You know, we have the capacity, and it's trying to remind us of that. So I'm pretty good.
Cool. All right. So conclusion. As we embrace passenger consciousness, we step into the role of the observer, trusting the innate wisdom of our design. Our body, the vehicle, knows where to go and how to navigate life's geometry. By surrendering to this cosmic flow, we allow our true self to unfold, living authentically as who we are meant to be. Step into your passenger consciousness. Trust your design. Let it guide you to fully embody your destiny. Live your unique life with purpose and ease.
It's back to our body, the vehicle, and our personality, the passenger. You know, the vehicle gives us all the chemistry we need to understand in order to be truthful inside ourselves and be our authentic, unique selves. So, to conclude the whole thing, human design and this whole process teaches you how to see it clearly and removes the guesswork of you trying to determine what you are and what you're not through just the disadvantaged personality on its own. Human design is here to make it so that what you say becomes truly your inner authority speaking outward. And now your outer authority can now participate. The passenger does participate in the travel, not by telling the driver, turn left, turn right, and being a backseat driver, participates in the looking outward. And at no time does it presume the passenger doesn't then talk to the driver. Hey, blah, 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 like a regular taxi cab conversation for the next 2 hours. That's what it's doing. It's supposed to be able to do that freely so that when someone else comes along, the passenger that does the speaking for us out into the world, much more so, because I am this, I am this passenger. Oh, I'm saying stuff. I live in, I'm going to speak for the ajna now. It allows that to speak its truth and allows it to be at ease with itself. And that's the whole deal with all of this. Human design lets the vehicle become at ease and you along with it, so that suddenly you really are yourself. We get what the emotional solar plex is supposed to give us, whether you have one defined or not. Steadfastness, right? When that solar plex is clear, there's a steadfast resolution to what its clarity came to. Why wouldn't there be? It goes through a whole wave. And this process of just learning your human design brings you similarly to the steadfastness of what you are and what you're not. Takes the guesswork out. So I like it. I mean, that was it for this set of slides.
That was it
right?
for the first presentation. Yes.
What do you got to say about the passenger? What's up with that dude?
What's up with that dude?
What's up with that dude? He's cool, right? We like him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like funny because it's like trying to differentiate the two between yourself, because it's like there's these two aspects of yourself, but it's still your one self. So it's like a funny thing to like bifurcate, but still understand it's like there's a cohesion. And I think human design is a really awesome tool to learn how to meld that cohesion in a way. Mm-hmm. So the driver can be the driver and the passenger can be the passenger, and the passenger is not being an annoying backseat driver, is just letting the driver be the driver, but then like, being the passenger princess and maybe like feeding him a Cheeto or something like that. And then being able to see what you see on the journey as a passenger and get to really enjoy the ride. Because if you're trying to drive, you're not even enjoying the scenery and what you get to do. And then you get to enjoy that scenery, you get to see where you go, and then you get to tell other people about it.
You know who rode the best on our long family trips? Me. I could let hours go by of staring out the window. I mean, my little details, I would start counting things or this or that or whatever, but hours would go by and suddenly we're there. And I was the kid that complained the least. Yep. Accidentally, I didn't know that would happen that way, but that's it. I remember the passengers so well. I've watched so many miles of woodland go by as we drive for 4 hours from point A to point B. It's funny. It's quite a memory and all that. But Moni, you said it perfectly. There's two. They need to love each other again in such a way that there's a full recognition. And then there's a surrender. Passenger is there and personality is there to surrender to design. And then in doing so, design gives all the chemistry needed for passenger to then be itself the rest of the way in harmony and speak its truth. Think of how cool it is when after you've been yourself long enough, and you've been in your experiment for a while and you realize, what you're not, and then you stop trying to be it. And then the relief that you sense from all of that, the deep burdening of the pain of the not self personality that's conditioned, not knowing it's not alone. That's the thing. It thinks it's all on its own. And this teaches that you're not. There's again, a cosmic love affair, the original one that starts inside yourself. And maybe it takes two vessels to let you know that, but that's what's there for you. And that's what's waiting on the other side of your human design experiment every time.
Beautiful.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, I like it. Yay.
Super great. Awesome. Well, thank you to everyone who's watching and hanging out. And if you can, hit that like button. It really helps us out. Subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing. Danny, if you can give a little message to our viewers for a moment, and I'll run away, and then I'll be back in a minute or two
Absolutely.
for part 2,
Yeah.
which we're going to be talking about the 9-centered way in human design.
What we're after here in our 9-centered way, we'll get into when Moni gets through it. But just message-wise, we're trying to grow this channel, and it's not easy. So do what you can to share. Make sure you do like each thing, and place notes and ask questions inside the comment section too while you're at it. We hope to get to like to get to 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and anything you can do to help us in that pursuit would be great. I'd like to see 10. I'd like to see this thing catch fire. Other stuff is help bring human design to a community near you. Think about becoming an analyst or learning more about this. You know, I teach this stuff and I can't wait. My mission in life one day is to make an army of readers, like a giant legion of us that are proficient in keynoting and have a love of the craft. There's going to be no shortage of need. And if you just hunt around, you'll see it's really exploding out there. So come get taught. And at very least, come get read. You know, get your own individual thing read. So if you've been on the fence or you know someone who might be able to use this, it's good for you. Understand that. I mean, when I read for someone, we dig in and there's no hiding. It's so good. And people end up laughing. And one of the coolest things is you get to laugh at the things that you used to take so seriously. I promise you, you'll see. So if you want more laughter, come get yourself read. And we'll read your partner and your kids and see what's the scoop with all of that, because there's always communion and the various aspects that happen inside the family dynamic that it's so helpful to know. It's the things that make it so you stop stressing over the things that you can't change. Your children are made a certain way, and chances are the parenting skills and tools and teachings you've been taught, just like myself, by the way. You know, I was taught, oh, the parent's in charge and all the things. And when I first had children, I didn't know. And I did them a disservice. And so parents with children, especially if they're younger, at any age, really, you know, let's find out about them, because there's just a few key things to know about each type and set of definition and inner authority. Just a few, they're simple when they're young. A few key big things, and you'll start to see, wow, my child is so much more adept at being themselves and capable of maintaining their own integrity despite the circumstances around them. And that's what we want every parent to give their children. So bring it on in.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Danny.
Hmm?
So now we're going to be getting into the 9-centered way in human design. So we're going to be talking about how we develop these 9 centers. So we're going to start off with 5 centers to 7 and then to 9.
I can't wait to get through this 9-centered thing. I've been talking about it forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
We both have. So we moved into our 9-centered way. I want to describe what all that is. I have a feeling it's written on all the slides coming up, so I don't want to give away the plot line yet. But there's a huge movement. It means a great big deal of stuff. And we need to take the final chapter so far of this 9-centered way very seriously.
Perfect. Well, let's dive into it.
1, 2, 3, go.
I don't know how I made that thing appear.
It's gorgeous, Moni.
That was like a little timer. I was like, I don't know what button I hit, but that was new. So here we're going to be starting off in our journey of these 9 centers with the 5-centered Neanderthal hominid. So these beings, the Neanderthal hominid, they relied on instinctive splenic intelligence and keen senses to survive, being very animistic and deeply connected to the influences by the forces or the gods of nature. They lived in small family groups in harmony with solar and lunar cycles and appeared to have been peaceful and non-aggressive. And then the Cro-Magnon mutation took place over thousands of years, which set the stage for the evolution of modern man.
Yeah, so this movement the Neanderthal was, I mean, I can't help but to think if I went back in time, they might be like, "What are you?" And they try and smell me, and I smell funny. But other than that, I don't see the aggression in them because Neanderthal, five-centered, all right. Their cognition was strictly all right. Now there was still two crystals of consciousness, but their cognition was right. Everything, so all four arrows pointed to the right. That made them so open receptive. They were just little babes in the woods with great big muscles and big wide chests that allowed them to hold in heat and keep energy and be strong. So their violence was basically at a deer. That was the extent of their violence. I don't know if they fought amongst themselves. They probably did some just because of stupidness, but in their five-centered way, the Neanderthal invented the bow. By the way, we found bows back in their time, and it was probably used for music or rhythm because we found no arrows. And then when we turned into our seven-centered form, the Cro-Magnon, much more intelligent, Ajna comes on board now. Before we were spleen looking at the use of Ajna. And in the seven-centered being, we were spleen and Ajna looking at itself as just dominant.
Yeah.
And then as we approach the next way, you know, we'll see we're now looking at the spleen, Ajna, solar plex. But in this one stage, the Cro-Magnon itself, moving into the seven-centered way, who created the arrow? It wasn't Cro-Magnon. They weren't interested in killing everything. They were open. All rightness means there's a sereneness only with your environment, and you only can really live right now without much of a not self mind. I don't know what the not self mind would have been in the Neanderthal. I'm not going to presume there was zero, because again, Ajna was coming on board. It wasn't zero Ajna. So where there's Ajna, there is not self potential. But it was weak. It wasn't there maybe in a lot of ways. Mostly is what my guess is. And the rightness said communion with harmony with nature. So when they invented a bow, they didn't invent it to kill stuff, to kill people and stuff like that. The precision of many arrows so that you could have archers, that came with a seven-centered being. That's just sort of part of the difference between the two.
Super neat.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ready to mosey?
Mm-hmm.
So now we have from 5 to 7 centers and becoming human. So this relates to the larynx mutation, which occurred about 85,000 years ago, where the larynx dropped down. And with this increased the cranial space, which led to neurological advances in the neocortex and visual cortex, which raised the forehead and helped with binocular vision. And this is when mental awareness started to overshadow existential, instinctual, instantaneous splenic awareness. So basically, Ajna is starting to come on board and overshadowing that splenic instinctive awareness. And this new vocal ability distinguished humans, which led to this development of language, communication, sharing intelligence, cooperation, specialization, and organization into villages.
Big time. And it started our long, long march into, 85,000 years of absolute savagery. Because the mind is still not in charge, but it thought it was. And so for their purposes, it was so locked in place that way, the mind was in charge. The arrows of consciousness and their cognition, they flipped, and then they all turned left. Strategic, active, focused, being observed, and not even being the observer. Neanderthal was the observer. Totally. They were the observer of their surroundings. These guys observed only what they wished to conquer. They were the ones in action, strategically, actively trying to figure out how to conquer everything. And an important word here that shows up when this happened, well, two important things. This larynx mutation, as it dropped and allowed us to articulate more, came at the same time with this. That's why the 11 and 12 in opposition are so important, because the ability of our third eye inside of us to have these magical ideas that can take shape, that took place with gate 12 that can articulate that. On our last episode, when we were talking, I forgot which, I think we were doing transits, and we were referring to the fact that you think something and you got some facts, that's cool, we can talk about it, but ideas sure can take off like wildfire. You got an idea, you have a belief, you believe this idea, and then you can sort of describe, that can take off like wildfire. Belief is more potent. It's an emotional process too. It's on that side of the body graph. And that's what happened. These guys believed their ajna was in charge, and gate 12, what does it say? It's a manifesting gate. I know I can, especially that now that I'm in the mood to conquer it. You know what I mean? And we got better swords than they do, and now we got more arrows. And those crazy Cro-Magnons gave us bows, but we made those bows way better. They shoot farther. We put flame on them. That's just all the stuff that mind can do, measures and figures stuff out. And it was all so much used to conquer things. In all fairness, we had to conquer a world. In all fairness, 85,000 years ago, as you're right, this forehead made room for this true movement of our crystals of consciousness to move more and made us more intelligent in that respect. I can't be unfair to that time, right? They still had to fight off woolly mammoths and then survive, and they needed their wits and they needed to be savage or else they would be eaten. But the dominant species then did show up, and they never got done being that all throughout the seven-centered history. It's like once a dominant, always dominant. You know what I mean? That's mine. I'll kill it all I want. And it's like they stayed that way till our nine-centered plight. And that leftness of strategic cooperation only. That's the word I wanted to come into. Yes, language. Yes, communication. We came up with so many words and so many ways to describe it and use our hands and articulate with our new larynx, all that good stuff. Villages made sense, right? We protect each other. But even a village back then was a cooperative effort. And notice the word sharing, intelligence, cooperation. Cooperation was part of the genetic imperative of the seven-centered being. Genetically built into us through those crystals of consciousness as part of what washed over our genes, and the information we do receive from the neutrino ocean was to cooperate. In order to advance consciousness, yeah, you're going to be savages. Maybe the universe wasn't its favorite part about advancement of consciousness. Maybe it was like, I like those Neanderthal guys. They were nicer. But we got to go through this before we get to that because we're in form. I don't know how it happened. All I know is as cooperation got sophisticated more and more, it became a bloodthirsty sport. Let's cooperate with the village and trick them into thinking we're nice, and we'll give them things. And as soon as we're done cooperating because we get their stuff, we'll conquer them and take their stuff. And that's what we did. Our cooperation needed to grow. And that's what the nine-centered story brings us. A genetic imperative away from simple cooperation. Keep the cooperation, but now it's time to level up. So my only thing about cooperation is if you just leave it at cooperation, it can be cold. Cooperation doesn't mean you love someone. You might have to cooperate with your enemy. You know what I mean? Just because whatever. So we don't want that anymore. We want cooperation to stay, and we want to enter the nine-centered need for communion, and that's a genetic aspect inside of us that we're going to have to get used to.
It's really fun because I was like, you just skipped ahead like 2 slides.
Oh, yeah, I tried to slow down because I know I'm skipping. I know.
You can't help it. It's your manifesting generator ways. It just makes me laugh. You'll just have to say it again later.
All good. I feel good here.
Awesome.
Anything else you want to say about this movement, about this?
I think you got it covered.
Do you feel like on purpose, this is the universe advancing consciousness to experience itself? It feels like it just in the story itself.
I mean, there's a program. Again, if there's a program, there's a programmer. If there's a creation, there's a creator. And if there's a creator and a creation, there's usually like an intention and a purpose.
Right.
Like unless you're just like throwing paint against the wall, and even that, I'm intending to splatter, right? Yeah. So I would imagine all of it has meaning and purpose behind it to whatever level that we can maybe like scratch the surface or like peer behind the curtain. I have to imagine that there's meaning behind it because there's a creation, there's a program, there's a creation. So there's a programmer and a creator that loves us enough to create us and have us live in this beautiful world. So yeah.
Indeed. And that gave us our final marching orders in our nine-centered way. And I can't wait to go through that. I think our creator was waiting. It was like, maybe the creator was like, maybe God was like, oh, I'm going to take a little nap and it'll be done in the oven in 30 minutes. And that was those 85,000 years plus from Neanderthal, right? So the oven's the violent part. Yeah, it's heated up. Yeah, it's hot in there.
Well, heating causes mutation, right?
Something like that.
All right, Mosey.
Mosey.
So now we're moving on to the seven-centered human, right? So this is after that, like 5 to 7, the larynx dropped. Now we're human, right? So the lifespan for the seven-centered human was a Saturnian life cycle, which is about 30 years. So Saturn takes about 30 years to go around its full orbit. And at this time, Saturn was the last planet discovered because Saturn is the farthest planet that we can see with just our eyes and not a telescope. And with the seven-centered human, the genetic imperative was for reproducing and cooperation and finding communion through sexuality. And the focus was on revering the powers of the strategic mind and thinking, replacing fears for survival, and using that thinking to be able to control the environment, which would then allow for more survival, right? We're talking about like this ajna consciousness at this time. And the conditioning of this time is looking beyond yourself for authority to guide, rescue, support, and justify aggressive conquests.
Yeah, justify the aggressive conquest. You just circle that because I mean that's the thing that we're still in a hangover of today. So yeah, this lifespan, it was shorter. They burned much faster. You know, I mean, they had to live their life a lot sooner. It was normal for 13 years old and 14 years old, to get married. That wasn't uncommon for good reason. Back then, everything matured so much faster. But the thing is that conquering of the environment and the recognition of this ajna consciousness just couldn't have known what we would start to have awaken in us when the emotional awareness showed up. But they did have it foreshadowed. So there was aspects of it in there. And I can envision that the seven-centered being, especially as it approached 1781, let's say maybe 1,000 years in advance of 1781, really started having senses of something more than just killing everything to make everything, theirs or not. Or we're only happy if it's all ours. That's this sort of seven-centered way. Of course, it gave us incredible classical music. It gave us all kinds of great stuff. I'd like people to notice in music, look at 1781 as this changing ground where we started to come into that neo-new stuff that was like really way out there. And it gave us Chopin, and it gave us Brahms, and it gave us Mahler, and it gave us things that diverged from hundreds of years of Baroque and straight up classical, Mozart. And Beethoven was alive during that time. He was part of the switch, the overturning of that. So he bridged it for us quite well. But I've said enough about the seven-centered being. They had voices, they could articulate, and they had manifestation on their side because Gate 12 was a big part of their whole existence. So they could and they did.
Cool. Is that all?
Kill everything in sight.
Well, kill it or control it. Control. Yep. I think control would be, or killing would be like under that umbrella of control.
You're right. Totally control it. And if they couldn't, then maybe they'd kill it or send it away. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's just, it's easy to like look back at the past and like they're all barbarians and horrible and like they did these mean things and war and stuff. And it's like, okay, yes, that did happen, but there's also like a lot more that also happened in that time. So I think that'd be part of it as, again, that means of like survival, just like, I don't know, we it's so easy to like, right. we're living in the present and we're so like conscious and aware. And back then they were so, this, that, whatever. Whereas, understanding it from this place of the ajna being like highlighted for how we're going to make it through the world and how we're going to survive. Is like with the five-centered thing, it's okay, it's splenic, you're just surviving, you're just responding to things, you're just keeping going in a way. Whereas seven-centered, it's having that ajna center turn on. You're going to get the good and bad of it. It's like any technology that comes. Like telephones are amazing and you can communicate across the world. And you also have phone scammers who are going to like rob little old ladies of their life savings. It's like any technology coming into form, you're going to have that good and bad. So as that ajna developed, hey, it's really great that we can control the environment and can control what's going on in order to survive, in order to develop better lives for ourselves and our friends and our families. Like, that's a good thing. That it's not a bad thing to have the
Oh, you're right.
ajna working and lit up, because it's how we've been able to develop the civilized world. It's how we've been able to feed more people, and like global poverty keeps going down like more and more and more. Like, the ajna is not a bad thing. It's just,
At all.
yeah, we're
Right.
now at this place where the ajna has been developing, and that technology is good and bad and wobbly and all of the things. And now getting to that place of understanding, hey, the ajna is really cool when it has its place. When you're using that ajna as like outer authority to share with other people, super great. Whereas if we're just getting lost in anxiety loops or trying to control things that we can't control and just freaking out and having panic attacks, not the best use of the ajna. So I think that's what we're in right now, as this like end of this like 7 into 9 centered thing,
Yep.
where it's learning, hey, where is the correct place for the ajna and how do I use that appropriately?
Absolutely. Because we did more than just kill everything. We protected lots of things,
Mm-hmm.
and we protected our families, and all that stuff is true. Absolutely.
Awesome. Mosey?
Yep. Mosey on.
So now we're going to talk about the 9-centered being. That's us, the Homo sapiens in transitus. And so this is in the post 1781 that these Homo sapiens in transitus as like we developed, right? Because in 1781 is when Uranus was discovered. It was the first planet discovered with a telescope. And the discovery of Uranus expanded our lifespan into 84 years. And so in this post 1781 time, we're finding communion through awareness and we're designed to guide through life decision by decision, right? So every decision we make is what's going to develop your life, and learning how to make correct decisions in that way. And developing, like, there's no longer a need for outer authority for direction. You don't need, the kings and the pharaohs telling you what to do. We're learning to develop our inner authority so we can make that decision by decision to end up where we're supposed to be, to live the life we're supposed to live. And so human design bridges this evolutionary progression from the mental outer authority of the 7 centers to the revolutionary aurically connected personal authority of the 9-centered way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that, because it is revolutionary, and it couldn't come online until the solar plexus was ready to wake up, essentially. And the solar plexus was ready to wake up, and the discovery of Uranus signaled that. Now, that's a bit of mystery. I don't know how to fully describe, but it was at that time that this shift took place. It's an evolution. We evolved is the thing, and that's what people need to really see this like. In 1781, all the children started being born different. I don't know what to say about this, Moni. Maybe you can speak something about it, but and at this point now, every man, woman, and child is a 9-centered being. So what do we do with our 7-centered I Ching and chakras? I mean, the 7-centered chakra system. We have to update those maps. We grew 2 new chakras, literally.
Yeah,
But that is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because it's like, yes, it's like developing to the 9-centered and using that, but it's like, I think you can still look at a framing and the concept of like the 7 chakras.
Sure.
And you can look through that understanding. And even that, like, there's like thousands, right? Because chakras are like the nerve plexus in our bodies, and they're like all over our body, where you have these like little like nerve energy vortexes. So the 7 chakras, even the development of that, it's like, it's a very simplified, pretty version of the complexity of humanity, where it's like, okay, you have these 7 main ones, but there's lots more of them. So I think it's like anything, you could look at it, it's like another lens. It's like, cool, I can look at the lens of the 7, yeah. I can look at it through the 9,
And the human body underwent the type of a shift where suddenly we grew a little taller, a little more space inside of us to vibrate these energies inside of organs. We grew a little bit warmer, a little more energy going into the body. That means if we're warmer, there's more motorized energy going into the life itself, because just to keep the thing warmer, just a degree or so, not a lot. So lots of things. We started living a lot longer, and so that was part of it too, in order to give us time to mature it. So this whole 9-centered way it brought on something that somewhere between the birth and Jesus, our solar plex center woke up. It came online to say, I'm knocking at the door, I'll be in soon. And then but in 1781, as soon as humanity was awake enough to see the planet Uranus and have that become something that's now inside the ajna of the planet, the ajna signaled, okay, we got this longer life cycle coming. It's here. 1, 2, 3, evolve. And the solar plex center woke up inside of us, now useful and able to be seen. Every man, woman, and child from 1781, born in and after 1781, had an emotional solar plex. I think that was a big shock. I mean, think about it. Our Revolutionary War was back around that time, and the whole taking of this country and all the back and forth that even just America's gone through, never mind all the other countries that's tried to follow suit and stuff. So a lot was happening. It was a turbulent time. And now that it's awake, we nine-centered beings have a new genetic imperative to keep the cooperation. It's revolutionary. It's passed through our aura that we will cooperate. But this connection and coming away from the outer authority as being in charge, the ajna being in charge, into no, the whole thing that is the body's in charge, and it's now an emotional body. It wasn't quite an emotional body before. Emotions were available, so there was emotional times, and there was emotional aspects of the seven-centered way, but they were not emotional bodies, full on like ours are. Ours are awake emotional bodies. So if we can wake people up through this and through creating an army of readers one day, we will help wake up humanity to the rest of the aspects of what is this emotional life. It's now 3 separate, wicked, powerful awareness centers, driving cognition and the cognitive path, moving us in a direction, filtering 2 crystals of consciousness, a body that loves and has emotions. That primary emotion is its spirit, part of the master keynote, and then the personality consciousness that likes to speak it all out. Let me tell you all about it. And we need those 2 things. We need to see them come together, and then we need to finally see that we kept cooperation as part of a genetic imperative, again, fused in our genome. We are not going to be healthy until we learn to do the next step, commune. And it's here, communion. We are here to learn to commune with the other fully, even if we don't like them, but to have this innate respect for their right to exist, just like our Constitution says, for God's sakes. I mean, they spelled out some of these things quite accidentally, I'm guessing. I don't think they had a download, but maybe they did.
It was there.
It was there.
The data is there. It's like in
Yes.
the ether. The neutrinos are floating around. So it's like where is your radio tuned into? Where's the dial tuned into?
You know what? The mostly men, but they had wives. So trust me, the men and women that created our new way in America, the United States of America, our men and women, they were waking up to this emotional coming of, and these were all young kids. The average age was like 22 and 4 and 6. It wasn't, 58 and 62.
Yeah, the founding fathers were like young dudes.
Young dudes. The oldest one was like, Washington was what, 35 or 40? Ben Franklin was probably 45, 50 at the time. He lived to be like 70 or something. Anyways, they were young. So young men, they saw it and they communed. They used communion to come up with a whole constitutional convention that gave away their power. They chose to give away their power. Those men could have said, no, out of here, England, and we're the new kings.
Yeah.
We're King of America. Do what we say, surf, and just recreated the whole feudal system, which, I mean, they're trying to do now, but it's like they could have just done, they didn't. Why? Because a new way of communion had fallen upon them, and they were still young and innocent enough to say, we're not doing it the old way, there's a new way. And they just trusted. They trusted that.
There's a specific thing that happens. It's like a developmental stage that happens in that like end of your teenage years into your early 20s, whereas there's this like huge urge of like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do something new. I'm going to make a name for myself. It's a developmental stage that happens. So the fact that like our founding fathers were in that kind of age makes sense. They weren't looking to, maybe if it was like some 50-year-old dudes, they're like, I'm going to be in charge and I'm going to be the king now. But maybe because they were these younger guys, it's like, no, like, I don't want to be under a king. Let's not put any Americans under a king and come up with something new and different, because that's the data that was in the ether.
Yeah, and they had a Declaration of Independence to basically bring into life. That's what they did, to bring that declaration into life. That was the whole idea. That's why they wrote it. But anyway, so it's a beautiful thing, and it speaks to communion, and it speaks to the need to literally get along with our fellow man, such that we should be able to plunk ourselves down anywhere, and suddenly, yeah, let's get to work. I'll help with this, and you'll help with that. I can't speak your language. You'll point. Okay, you're not going to shoot me and take my stuff. No, okay, good. I'll go do the thing. You got phone, you'll help me get home. Oh, thanks, appreciate that. We should be able to plop in the middle of the Amazon and have something like that happen. That's communion. We haven't gotten there yet in our consciousness. Love of the vessel empowers and generates the direction that two is locked into as a magnetic monopole, driving us towards all of this, from our collective past through our beautiful now into our collective future, all with the tribe in mind, and reverent of the individual's uniqueness. Again, just like our founding documents, they said every dude gets to be life, liberty, and the pursuits of their choosing uniquely. Can't interrupt that. So they gave us that. That speaks to communion. So we leveled up. Cooperation's cool. Communion is king.
Awesome. Mosey?
Mosey.
This is our last slide. Maybe one more, we'll find out. So nine-centered beings, 2027 and beyond. So the global cycle shift that's going to be happening in just a couple short years, not even, it's like a year and a half at this point. And we're going to be transitioning from the cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So we shifted into the cross of planning in 1615, and then we're going to be shifting into the sleeping phoenix in 2027. And the collective structures are evolving from tribal bonds to individual empowerment, with a focus on self-sufficiency, inner authority, and unique expression. And nine-centered beings fully embody differentiated awareness, the integration of splenic, ajna, and solar plexus consciousness, creating emotional clarity and intuitive knowing to guide decision-making. And purpose shifts to authentic individuality over collective survival.
But it will include and still imbue collective survival, because it's all there. I mean, we spent 450 years learning it. You know what I mean? Repeat, wax on. We waxed on and waxed off and painted up and painted down for 450 years. So we sort of got that. And luckily, those beautiful oppositions, I like that we're moving from one opposition into another, right? 37, 40, So it's still there. It's there in the world, constantly driving that energy oracally into us. So I'm not too worried that we suddenly leave tribe behind, because
no, it's evolving. It's just evolving into a different kind of thing, and into that individual self-sufficiency. And that doesn't mean you're not going to still care about your family and your tribe and your people, but there's a new focus. It's like, I feel like it's like changing grades. It's like when you're first like learning, multiplication and division, and then you're going to like go up to learn algebra, and it doesn't mean that you're not using multiplication and division. It's incorporating into something else with a new focus to learn a deeper lesson, a newer lesson.
Absolutely. 8th grade into high school, I remember it was a little scary. But yeah, that kind of movement, this shifts to this authentic individuality. That's what we were supposed to do. How long have I been saying everything in the body graph serves the individual definition? It's all there to serve this uniqueness. And here we are sort of demonstrating that. It's here to serve the spirit moving in a direction towards communion, and to be tribally secure and doing all of that. So there's a reason we didn't come off of something that wasn't tribe. We didn't come off of ajna. We didn't come off of 4323 into this. We came off of tribal into this. So this beautiful nine-centered way that we're moving into, that we're in now, and transitus, giving life to our new cross that's sort of coming along, to me is this essence of, now we finally get to be ourselves. Let's not mess it up by a not self world, losing track of that and making it be ugly again, because the old seven-centered way brought us a lot of beauty and art. It did bring lots of things. It brought us civilization. It did tame a otherwise violent world. It tamed it for us. It did. It totally laid out a red carpet for us, frankly. So we thank them very
Yeah.
much for that.
Peace through strength.
Peace through strength. It gave us that too. Yeah, we thank them for all that. But at the same time, they were still a murderous lot. Just period. They killed everything, if they couldn't have it or control it.
I mean, not everything. They killed some things.
You're right.
Like
they
again,
killed
if they
a lot of
killed
death.
everything, then like everyone would be gone. But like, yeah, Genghis Khan was, in the mix, but so was, loving, caring families. So it's just like, yes, there's control and there's killing, but it wasn't just, I'm imagining like the scene from like Monty Python and the Holy Grail where Lancelot just comes and just starts like killing
everything and the whole
party
and everyone's dead. You killed the bridesmaids.
Exactly. So it's like, yes, that was part of it, but there's also more than that. Like you could.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is because as we move now into this individual way, our true selves don't want to do any of that. But the current not self condition of the planet, to the degree that it is, I don't know where it is right now, Moni. I can only guess. I'm a second line. I'm a hermit. I can't tell until I take a real pulse of it somehow, or someone does some measurements for me that I don't have the capacity to do. But we're in a seven-centered hangover. That's why I have to bring up the treachery of the old way. There was a treachery sitting in it. Mm-hmm. The double cross was easy, in other words, in the old way. It really was, even if it meant, whatever. So just from 1781 till now is not a lot of time, evolutionarily speaking. It is not unreasonable to realize, on this long side, that's what, maybe 8 or 10 generations.
Yeah, it's like 250 years.
If we live them all out, 8 or 10 is probably a lot, really. If I count back 10, I'm going to get back easily at the time or before the revolution.
Yeah, if you put a generation at like 25 years, more or less, yeah.
And so now think about it. That's not a lot of time, evolutionarily speaking. So we're still consumed in an old hangover of that way, thinking we're supposed to always be strategic, not honoring our rightness, thinking we're always supposed to be the manifestor dominated plane rather than the combination of generator projector dominated plane. This shift brought us the projector, another new thing besides our height, our temperature, and our longevity, that came along. By the way, our appetite got more diverse as well. That's another thing to recognize. So bringing that all along, it's time to shake off that old hangover. It's time to shake it off. Human design is the ultimate plop, plop, Alka-Seltzer, fizz, couple of tablets in the morning. By the way, I tried Alka-Seltzer. It didn't super work for me when I was younger, but they said it did. So, but it's that time to take the Alka-Seltzer or do, whatever, do whatever it takes. It's time to wake up. We get into our strategy and authority. We enter into this human design experiment to see our unique selves and de-burden us from the stuff that we're not. And we see it in a human design body graph so clearly. You got a few channels, right? On average, everyone's got a channel or 2 or 3. Some people have 4 or 5. Doesn't matter. You got very few channels. You got 18 or 20 gates on or about, plus or minus. That's it. You're not all of the other things that aren't defined in your body graph. You're not them. And it's time to see how much you want to shed them. I mean, when I was 4 and 5, I can look back and I can look at my body graph and I can see the gates I don't have and the ways in which I bet you I wasn't trying to be them. Not being fully conditioned yet. But I bet you slowly I could see, oh my God, I really was trying to be a little bit of it. And by 4 and a half, I was definitely trying to be a little bit of this one. And by 8, I bet you I could see I was trying to be like, 20 of the things that I don't have. And by the time we're full on adults, we can look at
lost in it.
We're lost in it. Yeah. So just get unlost. Come enter your experiment and recognize the human design system is how our genome has us operating. It's the owner's manual. It's the blueprint. You might want to know it. The on button, the off button, how to restart, a couple important functions maybe. Come to know your design and you will come to know who you are and who you're not, for real, in a very peaceful way.
Perfect. Final page?
Final page, yeah.
So, yeah, this is the last one. So the end of external conditioning, inner strategy and authority prevail. This comes with the dissolution of homogenized authority structures. Humanity embraces auric interconnectivity without conformity and harmonic resonance with cosmic cycles, not control. The global awakening to personal truths. Communities of aligned individuals foster mutual empowerment, and human design is used as a tool for navigating the new paradigm.
I don't have anything to add to that. It's perfect.
Yay.
I mean, it's perfect. All I can do is blah, 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 and say more of what really is. I said it all in the last one. You enter your experiment, we get all of this stuff, and we recognize how dear is our unique personal expression to us. You know, I love you, Moni, but I love me more. We all get to say that, right? And it's supposed to say that. And now we get to finally see it. I can't think of a single soul when I talk to and say, don't you want your unique expression to shine? Almost everyone, even when they're afraid to say yes to that, they still have something in them that wants to say it. It's there.
Well, and it's neat too, because with human design, it gives you a way to actually access that. Because I feel like there's such this desire and this like cultural thing of like authenticity and be you and all that. But a lot of people don't even know what that means. And then they end up chasing somebody's idea of what like unique, individual, authentic expression means. And it can become like this buzzwordy thing of just like dye your hair a funny color or get some weird things or something, you know, like, and
do certain things.
Do certain
always comes
things.
with a list, a checklist.
It's exactly. Like do this thing to be part of this, like your little clique or something like that. And I really love that with human design, it's not this, hey, do this thing. It's, hey, if you want to play with this experiment, here are some patterns you can notice and you could explore and see where you end up. And in that process, then you can actually kind of discover who you are. And that's what I love about human design is that it is this experiment. I don't want to tell anyone, go do this, go do that. All I can say is, hey, these are some neat patterns. Play with this if you want. Play with that if you want. And this spirit of play and exploration that I find it's so necessary because no one wants another authority figure beating them, you know, like down their throat, you know, like nobody wants another bully telling you what to do. And so what's really cool is human design. It's about witnessing that experiment yourself and playing with it yourself and discovering it on your own. And that makes it so much more deeper. And that's how you can actually find that real authenticity and not this, you know, bought, sold, you know, viral internet, you know, aspect of like authenticity that's become such a buzzword. It can almost stop having meaning.
Yeah. The whole follow me. Don't seven-centered compel yourself out of a fear to follow any of this stuff per se. Nine-centered, allow your stuff to give yourself back yourself. That self that you had when you were 4, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old is when it's most prominent. And the fact that you can see for yourself. Don't take our word for it. You know, the seven-centered way would be like, you have to believe me right now. And the nine-centered way is don't take our word for it. See for yourself. You'll see how unique you are. I couldn't even possibly describe how unique you are. You have to see that. I can only get you to the aspects that keep clouding your view of what that really is. That's what that's what human design gets for people. And that's what, think of what the amount of love we have to pour out, Moni, to make all these broadcasts and to keep doing this. You know, that's for you, right? That's for everyone who would be empowered and allow themselves to self-empower and view for themselves. Don't you love it when you show your sister or someone or this or that when they first saw it and they're like, oh my God, they're seeing it. It's magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like another big aspect of this 7 to 9 centered and this 9-centered way thing where things are really, it's almost like you can see it more and more. Things have to come from a place of being energetically correct or they're not working. Like in the past, maybe you can just pay somebody and they'll do this thing. Whereas now it's got to come from, hey, you're really into doing this. Because that's the only way something's going to happen. And when people are super into something, then they could just build something that's amazing. When a generator is like sacral response, yes. And it's this like never ending flow of energy to build something cool to share with the world. Like, wow, you couldn't pay somebody to do that. You know what I mean? When my will is lit up to make something, because that's my authority and that's my motor, get out of my way because I just want to make something cool. That again, you couldn't pay somebody to do that if they weren't into it. And I've been really seeing this more and more and more is for an individual, for groups and companies, whatever, it has to come from this place of being energetically correct, or it's more and more it's not working and it's starting to collapse. And in that way where
People see it.
Oh yeah, they might not understand it. Like if you don't have that human design background, you can just see that stuff is kind of falling apart. And wow, these people who are really into it are building something cool. So they might not have those like puzzle pieces to put it all together. But in that way where like Ra talked about, human design is for a time when people don't know what's true or what's not.
Right.
And in the years past, I was like, okay, wow, that's kind of interesting. And I couldn't really quite comprehend it. And then now with the levels of like AI and computer generated anything, who knows people they could just make stuff up and it sounds really good and it can sound really legit and you don't know if it's true or not. And you can't trust any authority because there's not just one. It's robots and companies and whatever. And more I can understand what Ra was alluding to and expressing towards of we won't know it's true or not, and the only thing that we can do is learn our own inner authority and decision by decision have that lead us into what is correct for us, into our survival, into everything that means we're gonna be okay and living the life that we're supposed to. And more I'm really recognizing the importance of living correctly and following your strategy and authority, because the people who aren't, unless they stumble upon it on their own, I see a lot more people getting lost and things not working out. And I'm concerned. My heart goes out to everyone.
Yeah, that's why the whole army of readers says, I want to change the world, Moni. It's still there. That little 21-year-old that still wanted to at the time. Of course, then I wanted to be a rock star, but whatever. That would have changed the world somehow. But I still want to. It burns. I always have wanted to. And there's something coming. It's something big. I can't wait to see what's next. I just hope enough people do wake up so that, we're coming into a turbulent time. We're sort of already in it. So that's it. There's your whole, folks. There's everything you need to know so far, minus all the questions I hope you have.
Yeah.
So start answering them.
Yeah, and ultimately it just goes back to that simple, like, follow your strategy and authority. It becomes like a second line already, like this like thing that you can always come to. But it's like, it is true, because nobody can tell you what's going to be correct for you. All you can do is, clean up your conditioning and learn how to make correct decisions at yourself, and then trust that, hey, if I'm making correct decisions as myself, then I'm going to lead the life that I'm supposed to lead, and everything's going to work out okay. Because otherwise it's just that ajna spinning wheels, panic, anxiety mess of a thing. And
danger. Yep.
Yeah, and you're just going to go nuts. Like, there's so much information, we cannot process it. Like, we literally cannot process the amount of information. And then now it's like, even with like AI, more and more of what I'm seeing is not just AI creating something, but then using AI to summarize something. We're like, I don't want to read these 20 pages you just spit out for me. You need to summarize that even more. So it's like, our brains are not made to handle that. So let's stop trying to make our brains handle all this mental anxiety stuff that it's not there for.
Right. I agree. It's that thing that we ultimately get to see for ourselves as we move into this unique way under the cross of the sleeping phoenix. The spirit will come alive within the unions we make personally. That'll create a certain intimacy or not. It's still tribal in nature, luckily, with that 59 sitting there. It generates part of that tribal wave, protective wave. But it's so unique, and it's meant to be so unique, and it's got 3420 in it, so it's going to be busy. And so we're all going to be busy, unique things that if the spirit goes too low, no good. So let's realize that spirit is meant to be abundant. It's just, we're meant for abundance. I don't know how else to say it. Grow a few things and then try to make it stop growing. We're meant to have fruit growing everywhere and just a literal abundance. Try to make it, you can't even stamp it out like weeds. You got to come in with killer and you got to kill it and dig it. It's hard to stop the abundance once you have an abundance mindset. And abundance is strictly a matter of spirit. And that's what we're coming into, and it's a unique way. So
And especially with the sleeping phoenix, like my boyfriend's a sleeping phoenix, so it's been really fun to like help him in his deconditioning and see him continue to like flower in a way as this little sleeping phoenix busybody, where when he's in alignment, like he really like brings people back to life, right? Like that sleeping phoenix idea, it's just like it's like the end of what Harry Potter 2 with the phoenix, and he's like Harry goes into Dumbledore's office and the phoenix is like Fox is looking all like old and crusty and stuff, and then he bursts into flames.
Right.
And
right.
then like Harry Potter's like, oh no, he's gonna think I did it. And then Dumbledore comes, he's like, oh, it's a shame you had to see him on a burn day, right? Because he was looking really scraggly. And I feel like that's kind of where we're in right now, where it's like the Phoenix is looking kind of scraggly and towards the end of that, but it's because it's about to burst into flames and come back to life and breathe this new life into the world. And I see it with my boyfriend. I see it with, you know, he's a builder, artist, contractor extraordinaire. So he literally will build things for people. He'll help people rebuild their homes and rebuild, you know, do performance art
Communion.
and stages and parties and even like, and he's a DJ and his music will literally bring people back to life. Like it is wild when he is in tune and seeing that sleeping phoenix come back to life. So I know 2027 has all this like ooky spooky scary like what's going to happen end of an era kind of thing, and it's like yes, and also it's gonna bring the life back into us. It's gonna breathe that life in. It's gonna bring that spark and that fire and that heartbeat and that rhythm. Like there's something there, and it's gonna be big and crazy and amazing, but don't be freaked out about it. It's gonna be good.
Well, the strategy and authority, like you said, is there for a time when we can't tell what's true and we only have ourselves to rely on. You know what I mean? Get in your experiment, get it rolling now, because 2027 is right around the corner. This shift is, we're going to feel it. It's going to move things. And if you don't know it's there, it might be scary. If you know it's there, at least it's like, cool, let's start working with it. So that's about all I have to say about all of this. I think the movement is amazing, and live out your nine-centered existence, people. We're here to commune and empower and support and be sensitive and to help the other find the spirit and to self-empower.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, super fun. That was super great. Next week, no show next week, no live stream next week because I'm going to be out of town. I'm going camping, so that'll be fun.
Can we do 2 weeks?
I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Wait, we'll talk about it. Okay, so oops.
Quite possibly, at least one, maybe two. We'll see if we're going on a longer vacation.
Next week, we're off.
We still have the videos posting. I have videos posting like every day, trying to catch up with all the live streams and posting, editing videos and whatnot. So lots of stuff will still be coming out. So either in a week or two, we'll be back. When we do come back with our next live stream, we're going to be talking about signature and not self themes, which I'm pretty excited about. We're going to go through the types: the manifestor, generator, manifesting generator, projector, reflector, and their not self and signature themes, right? Like the manifestor is like anger and peace, and the generator types are frustration and satisfaction. Like, what does that mean? How does that come up? What does that
mean?
Yeah, why does that come up? I'm really excited. I have a cool presentation for that. And then I think that's going to be the perfect episode to start bringing in. We're going to go through all the incarnation crosses, which is going to be a little bit crazy. So, and it's going to probably take at least like a year or so.
Are we doing all the right angle crosses? Is that the big goal? Or are we doing all of them?
Oh, no, I have presentations for all of them because I'm kind of a crazy person, but I always wanted to go through it. So,
and are we going to do all the iterations of the right angle? Okay.
Yeah. So the first one we're going to do is going to be the Sphinx, and we'll go through like the Sphinx overall, and then it'll be like Sphinx type 1, Sphinx type 2, type 3, type 4 in the same little segment, and then explain like why are they similar, why are they different. And so we will make our way through all like 112 or whatever incarnation crosses, all the variations. It's a big task, but I've strategically systematized it, and we're going to get through it all. And I'm super, super stoked.
192.
Cool. There you go. Yeah. I knew it was like 100 something and 2. So I'm glad we got Danny to have
64 times 3.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's 64 times 3. So
yeah.
It's 180, 192. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I've broken it down between like the right angle, the juxtaposition, the left angle, and the varieties. But anyway, we're gonna be going through all the incarnation crosses. It's probably gonna take like a year or a year and a half or something, but we will make our way through. And yeah, we got lots more exciting shows from there. We're going to be getting into like PHS and, you know, the variables and the arrows and all that good stuff. So hang tight, keep showing up, keep hanging out. Thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking and subscribing and commenting. I love it. It really helps us out and it really makes me really happy. We've gotten some like super nice comments lately that I've just been like melting and blushing over. So thank you guys for that. And
yes, thank you, everyone.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks and we will have some more human design stuff for you. So see you then.
See you then, everyone. Much love. Come back soon.